copier going?
No. I just printed them off the other printer.
Okay.
No. I called them. She goes, oh, I'll put urgent. And I said, well, we have a board meeting at 8:30, so we probably won't be available till later morning. After I said 11, they give us plenty of time. And she said, oh, well, I thought you were going to tell me you needed it in the next half an hour, and I was going to tell you I couldn't do that. And I go, no, I know that. I said, our copier's old, and every time he comes, he tells me we need a new one. And I just tell him to please keep fixing it. She laughed.
call to order. All right, good morning, everybody. It's a little after 8:30, so we'll start with a call to order, and we're convening the Yates County Capital Resource Corporation for our first meeting this morning. Start with an introduction of guests. We have Steve Meyer with us with Harris Beach. I don't know if Russ is not online, right?
He's not.
Okay. Mr. Moon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Jim Mullen, Howard Hanna Real Estate.
All right. And we have Erica here with Drescher Malecki, who's going to have a presentation for us for each of our meetings today and our financial statements in the presentation. So thank you for joining us, making the drive in. We'll get started through the agenda then, and our first item is to ask if we need an executive session.
We do not.
We don't? Okay, we'll move on then to the review and approval of our minutes from our February 21st meeting. Those were included in our packets. And I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Steve? That's good. And a
Second.
Second, Mary Ann.
Mary Ann.
All right, any questions, comments, any changes that were noted? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried.
Kinda just wanna oppose something.
You should, yeah.
Just because,
Today's the
you know,
day.
You never say nay. I've never heard anyone say nay. No.
Yeah, today's
I'm
the day, all
always
right.
tempted. Only for cause.
Do we have any, I don't think there's any changes in the agenda. What do you have for us for our finance report?
I have two checks today, check number 105 and 106 totaling $1,744.70. One is for Drescher Malecki for audit, and the other one is a reimbursement of overpaid interest on the Yates County Egg Society loan.
Egg Society?
Agricultural Society
Oh.
is a
That loan for the fairgrounds.
They were doing direct deposit and it keeps depositing interest. Bank keeps doing it and she keeps telling them to stop, so.
Okay. All right, with that, I would ask for a motion to accept the finance report and paying of those specific checks.
So moved, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Second, Janice.
Seconded, Janice. Any questions, further comments? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. That takes us to our action items, and then that is our 2023 audit
Great.
presentation. So Erica, if you will, guide us through that, please.
Sure. Again, my name is Erica Handley. I'm a director with Drescher and Malecki. I have 3 presentations for you today. The priors are all pretty similar. So I'll spend this first one and go through it in more detail, and then as we get into the others, I can kind of go more quickly through the repetitive items. In front of you, you have I believe the presentations as well as the financial statements.
I didn't print the presentation.
That's okay. There's no there's no numbers, anything in the presentation, so I can just go through that. But the draft financial statements are in front of you for each of the entities. So for the Capital Resource Corporation, what the deliverables of our audit are, so what you will get in the end are primarily what you hire us for is a basic financial statements, which again are in draft in front of you. Within those financial statements, the only thing that we take ownership over as your auditors are the opinions on the financial statements. So those are on pages 1 through 3. The rest of the information that we receive comes directly from management, and then we compile it into what is in front of you. We also occasionally issue what's referred to as a management letter. That would be if there were any best practices, any findings, any observations, that would come as a deliverable to you. There is no management letter for this year's audit for the Capital Resource Corporation. And then the third deliverable of our audit is what's referred to as an auditor communication letter. And within that letter, it's not in front of you, it'll come at the end of the issuance of our audit. There's a couple of required communications that we have to have with this group on an annual basis. So those come in a pretty standard letter. Within that letter contains what our responsibility is as your auditors. And our responsibility is to plan and perform an audit to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So we use words like reasonable and fairly stated. That's not to say that, that's to say that we aren't providing 100% accurate financial statements. It's that they are reasonable and that we've performed tests to ensure that they are reasonable. Significant accounting policies we communicate to this group. Those are included within footnote 1 to your financial statements. If there had been any changes in those, we would communicate them with the group. However, there were no changes. So if you're comparing last year's financial statements to this year's financial statements, they are comparable in the way accounting transactions are handled and the way your policies operate. Significant accounting estimates. Within the Capital Resource Corporation, there are no significant estimates in the financial statements, so nothing to communicate there. We also communicate and reiterate our independence in relationship to the CRC. Everyone in our firm, everyone who worked on the audit is required to and has signed off as being independent of the entity. So that's really important, probably the most important thing of an external audit, and you can be assured that in fact and appearance we are independent. And then had there been any other matters, we would communicate them with you. There were no disagreements with management. We had the full cooperation. We had access to all the books and records that we requested, so nothing to report there. The opinion that is in the financial statements, so what's on pages 1 through 3 of your financial statements, is an unmodified opinion. So that is a clean opinion. That's the best that you can do from an audit perspective. Again, these financial statements are in draft form. They've gone through quite a few rounds of review, and they will be issued in time for the Paris filing by March 31st. So we're in good shape. We have plenty of time to issue, and we will finalize by that point. And then just a brief financial statement highlight looking at the finances of the Capital Resource Corporation. There are 3 main financial statements. There is the statement of net position. No, that's okay. So the statement of net position is what is also considered to be your balance sheet. That is really what shows a snapshot of time exactly at December 31st, 2023. Within the Capital Resource Corporation, your ending net position or your equity balance came to $66,727 at year end. This is all comprised of assets. There were no liabilities outstanding at year end, so this is comprised primarily of cash and the outstanding notes receivable. The second financial statement is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is your income statement. From the year ending December 31st, 2023, there was a slight decrease in net position of $1,875. That's just from normal operations, nothing out of ordinary that happened within the entity this year, just a standard normal operations. And then for your purposes, it's probably important to take a look at what the cash flows were. That's the third financial statement. The cash flows did decrease by about $19,000 this year, and that was primarily due to the issuance of the new loan, the $25,000 loan to the Agriculture Society. There was the collection of old loans, so now there's only that one loan outstanding, but that did cause a decrease in your cash for this year, and then in the future years that will increase as you make the collections on those loans. In conclusion, for the Capital Resource Corporation, again, there was that unmodified opinion, a clean opinion, no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses, so no reportable findings, no observations, pretty standard audit for this one, a smaller entity, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing further to report on that. Are there any questions? No. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do need to vote on this and approve, or accept the financials, and then they're able to go and finalize them, so that they have to be presented to the board first before they can be finalized. So that would be a vote we need to do. I don't think that needs to be a roll call. It'll just be a regular vote. Does anybody have any questions before we head in that direction? Okay. Okay, then I'd ask for a motion to accept the financial statements.
I'll make that motion. Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
I'll second, Serene.
Second, Serene. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carried. Mr. Chance, Janice. Thank So you missed your chance.
We're not done yet.
Okay, well, in this one, yeah. All
I
right,
was
so
busy looking for him.
our next meeting is on an as-needed basis as always, and so we'll stay tuned. And I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mary Ann.
Thanks, Mary Ann. In a second?
Second, Jesse.
Jesse, right, we are adjourned. And with that, we'll call to order the Finger Lakes Horizon EDC meeting. And we have the same guests. I don't think anybody's joined us online. And, well, and Serena is here too. I think we probably recorded that in the minutes when she came in for the last meeting. Do we need an executive session for this? Nope. Okay. So then we are on item 3, the approval of the minutes from our prior meeting, which was February 21st. Start with a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay,
Janice.
and a second?
Second, Mary Ann.
Okay. Any changes that were noticed? Any further discussion on the minutes? Okay. Call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. No changes
No.
in the agenda. We'll turn it to Doreen for the finance report for this one.
2 checks today totaling $3,782, check number 372 and 373, and 1 check is for the audit. I can't remember what the other one was for, and they said. And Pete and Ingenuity. Charged us for the letter, wrote concerning the audit.
Okay. Good deal. All right. And we'll ask for a motion to approve the finance, or accept the finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. And a second?
Second, Jesse.
Jesse, okay. Any further discussion, questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's carried. So we'll move on to our action items today, and welcome Erica back up for our
All right,
audit presentation.
Round 2.
Round 2.
All right, so again, you do have the draft financial statements of the Horizon Economic Development Corporation in front of you. That is one of the 3 main deliverables of our audit. You have a draft in front of you. Within that draft financial statement, again, the only thing that we take ownership over is that opinion on the first couple pages of the financial statements. The rest of the information and records come directly from Doreen. We compile them into what is in front of you. We also, on occasion, issue that management letter, which is the potential for any best practices, recommendations. There is no management letter issued for this year, so that will not be included in the deliverables. And then the third main item that we issue as your independent auditors is that auditor communication letter. Within the auditor communication letter outlines what our responsibility is under generally accepted auditing standards. Auditors are charged with planning and performing procedures over the books and records that we receive from management to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Again, your significant accounting policies are included in footnote 1 to the financial statements in this draft as well. No changes in those policies from year to year, so nothing to report. They are comparable to last year's financial statements. From time to time, significant accounting estimates are included within the financial statements, and the Horizon Economic Development Corporation does have one estimate in the financial statements. That estimate is the allowance for doubtful accounts. So there are certain notes outstanding that are either in collections or are uncertain if they're going to be collected. So there is an allowance for doubtful accounts recorded against those receivables to show that there's potential for those not to be collected. That's an estimate because that's uncertain at this point. That is a requirement that we share that with management. That is the only estimate within the Horizon Economic Development Corporation financial statements.
Is that a just general overall requirement, or are there reasons that we might believe we won't collect on those loans?
So that is a management decision. I believe those items are actually in collections, and that's why there is a
Okay.
allowance on those. If there is That would be up to this group. If you are evaluating them and determining that there are certain other ones, even if they're not in a collections process, that you aren't certain that you're gonna collect on, you could have that allowance against them.
So it's based on actual folks being late on payments and stuff?
Sure, yes, and that could be something, if it's something that you wanna look into further, that you could, as a board, develop a policy on, so that it's standard practice. If they haven't paid in a certain amount of months, then add them to the allowance, something like that.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions at this point on that?
I'm sorry, what was that amount that we're holding?
I could look, I don't have it offhand. I think it's around $14,000.
Okay. So it's
Not too substantial, yeah.
Very good.
Good, any other questions? I'm happy to- If anyone does have any questions, feel free to jump in. Again, independence, we are independent, everyone who worked on the audit and everyone in our firm is independent of the Economic Development Corporation.
It's 11,000.
11,000.
447.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
And then any other matters, we had full cooperation, Doreen provided everything that we asked for and probably more, we appreciate all of the help, no disagreements. There were 2 journal entries that were proposed as the result of our audit. Those are routine in nature, similar to prior years, but there were no material uncorrected errors. So anything we found, we proposed to Doreen and adjustments were made, so nothing material to note there. Again, our opinion in the financial statements is in draft form, however, we do intend to move forward with that unmodified opinion, the clean opinion, and we have plenty of time and do anticipate issuing by March 31st to be in compliance with Paris. Moving on to the financial statement highlights, the statement of net position or your balance sheet presents your assets, liabilities, and equity position. At the end of December 31st, 2023, ending net position was about $2.6 million. There were no liabilities outstanding, so that equity position is all held in assets, and primarily that balance represents the notes outstanding, so notes receivable outstanding totaling about $1.6 million. As far as your income statement or your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, overall net position did increase by about $141,000. Within there, operating revenues totaled about $308,000 versus operating expenses of about $167,000. And then the third financial statement is the statement of cash flows. Cash flows did decrease this year by about $61,000. Similar to the Capital Resource Corporation, that's pretty much tied to the amounts of loans that are issued versus the amount of collections coming in. So there were loans issued during the year totaling $420,000. That was 5 new loans that went out of that, which caused that decrease in cash flows. And those were partially offset by the overall collections on loans of about $220,000. Again, no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. We do know, and I'll talk about this again in the IDA, last year we had a communication about truing up some of the loan balances, so taking what was in the loan software and tying those to the general ledger. I just wanted to make a note of that this year we definitely saw improvements. And last year there was a journal entry to make some adjustments for those, and we didn't have that similar journal entry this year. So there were improvements. And we just continue to recommend that going forward, that process happen, that reconciliation. Any questions or comments? That concludes the formal presentation on the Horizon Economic Development Corporation. All right, great.
Just gonna point out one thing on the operating side for this one. There's $250,000 of revenue that we've seen the last many, many years. But the 23 was the last year that we'll receive that. So after this, this current year, 2024, we won't have, that's the bulk of the revenue in this entity, but a lot of that passed through. And so it was our biggest revenue and also our biggest expense. So this entity's gonna have a lot less operating income and expense next year. It'll be just down to the loans side of things, the loan interest, and then there aren't very many operating expenses in it.
Starting in 2024.
Starting in 2024, but it'll look a lot different, revenue and expense-wise next year. by next year, I mean.
Again, was the Empire
This year.
Pipeline project came through, I think it was, whatever, 15 years ago. And they've, in addition to the pilot agreement, there was a community benefit fund that they paid, and went to each county. There was 5 counties, I think, that the pipeline came through. Each county decided to do something different with their community benefit fund. And I'll just mention that Yates was the only one that gave half of that money back to the affected towns that the pipeline went through. Every other one kept their EDO kept all of it. And then even within the EDO, they did different things with it. So Ontario County used it to start their fiber ring. And some just kept it for operating, I think most kept it just for sort of operating balances and funds. And we created, with our half that we kept, our entrepreneurial loan fund with it, which has been lent out a couple times over since then. But that now stops, so
Can
that
we-
runs over.
Can we do a story on that?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds
good
like a
idea,
good
right,
story.
yeah.
And especially if you loan that money out a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not keep those secrets.
Yep.
Yeah, so the unmodified opinion and the not having a management letter are what we wanna hear. Those are very good things. It's
Yes,
saying
sorry if I gloss over
you-
those
you're-
or speak
that
quickly, but
there-
definitely.
no management changes and, serious issues to note, so that's a major accomplishment in both of the first 2 audits that have had that case. The approving them now, accepting as it is, if there's and very unlikely, but if there's a major change that would
Mhm.
come up, or a material change to any of this, I would ask that it comes back to the board. We're approving them now with what's here, but they aren't draft, so if there was an edit or something that was a material change, then I think we'd want it to come back to have.
The financial statements that you have gone through all the levels of our review within our firm, so there have been no proposed material changes. There's different formatting changes. I think the
I
Capital
got you.
Resource Corporation, there's a $35 difference, so immaterial items, so I don't expect any, but should something pop up that we didn't know about, we will communicate that, yeah.
Awesome.
Great job, Doreen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good job.
It's a lot of
And
work.
thank you for the presentation, part 2.
Sure.
I guess we'll start with ask for a motion to approve and accept the financial statements.
So moved, Janice.
Thank you, Janice.
Second.
Second, Steve. Are there any further questions on the statements themselves or any of the presented material?
I guess I do have a question in
Yeah.
regard to what you just mentioned. This is a draft. I know it's due in the 31st. Has there ever been a year that we actually get the final? So we don't have to be actually reviewing the final? I understand there's highly unlikely any changes, but we are technically reviewing a draft. And I don't know if you've done it.
Not since we have been auditors. I think part of the background on that is Doreen takes what's in the draft and then puts it into the Paris filing. And Paris filing they go hand in hand.
Consider the final.
And so, as far as the IDA statements, the draft that you have also gets attached part of that Paris filing. So I think that is part of the reason, but it has not, since we've been auditors, we've presented on drafts.
Correct, for the IDA one, the Finger Lakes, we have to have all of our, straight lease back projects into Paris, and then we have to send a report and send it to Drescher and Malecki so they can attach it to the financial statements. So there's a little bit of a,
There could have been years, but now with added
Yeah.
state reporting requirements, it's become more challenging to try to get that all completed in a time that can get you
Coordination
less than
for-
a draft
Yeah.
format.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yep, that's it.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. So again, our next meeting would be on an as-needed basis for this entity, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mary Ann.
Marianne, in a second.
Second.
Okay, we are adjourned, And we can shuffle your piles around. We'll call to order the meeting of the Finger Lakes Economic Development Center. And we have our same guests. Nobody's joined us. Do we need an executive session for this one?
I believe so, to discuss company financials of a particular business.
Do you wanna
So we
let
can,
Erica go so she can be on her way, or move the agenda around a little bit?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Are you guys all okay with that? Moving the audit presentation, we'll go a little out of order, but then
Sure.
that helps.
Sure.
Yeah.
Here's some of
Alright.
the IDA draft, my copy
have to
died
share.
before I got them all copied.
I could pull it up on my,
I have it on here too.
we have enough for.
It might be, I think that one's a partial, but it's got.
You can share.
Yeah.
Mary Ann and I can share.
Alright, so we're gonna move ahead to action items number 1, which is our 23 audit presentation. We'll turn it over to Erica. Does everybody have one in front of them?
Oh,
Why don't you- Go ahead, I can pull it up.
What's that?
Well, okay.
Here's one, right?
No, I just didn't want the green paper. Just kidding.
All right, thank you again for having me. The final presentation here for Yates County Industrial Development Agency. In front of you are those draft financial statements. You'll feel just by the weight of it, the IDA is more complicated, so it's a little bit of a larger draft in front of you. But really, the way that we operate as your auditors stays the same from audit to audit. So the opinion on pages 1 through 3 is our responsibility. Similar to the previous 2 entities, the opinion within these draft financial statements, again, is an unmodified opinion, that clean opinion, the best that you can do from an audit perspective. We also occasionally issue a management letter. That is that letter that contains certain best practices, future reporting requirements. There is 2 items proposed within the management letter. We're still working through a little bit with Doreen on one of those items. There was noted that there was one bank account at year end that was not fully collateralized by the bank. It sounds like, and Doreen, you just talked to them yesterday on this, so.
Yes.
Okay, you can talk about it a little bit more, and we can touch base on if it stays in the management letter. But it looked like there was one account that, just due to a misunderstanding from a new banker, that was under collateralized by the bank. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
So what happened
Okay.
was, we had a CD at Wayne Bank, and, so we were working on the collateral agreement, well, then the CD got moved, so that got dropped, and that was years ago. Well, then there's a new bank manager, and I assumed that we already had that, her and I both assumed we already had that collateral agreement when the CD went there the last time, and then when we got looking, it was not. So I have the agreement to sign, and we'll have it on file going forward, but that money has since been moved out of that bank. So, we were good, but yeah, that is important to have that, absolutely, so.
And that
that's-
can happen also from time to time. We see if there are, say, like large deposits at year end, that often causes the under collateral issue too. Wanted to bring it to this group. I'm comfortable not including it in like the management letter as a public document if that's the preference of this group. It's not, the management letter isn't anything that has standards around it. It's just kind of our opportunity to say what we see. This is not a finding, a significant deficiency, material weakness, anything that rises to that level, just something we wanted to communicate.
Sorry, I don't know what the collateral
So your account, anything that's over $250,000, because FDIC insures that, then the bank will do a collateral agreement. Like, we already have a collateral agreement with Five Star Bank and,
Meaning they're gonna
Lions
guarantee
Bank.
anything over the
yes.
250.
So what we
Got
do
it.
is we get a statement.
Thank you.
We get a statement every month that says what's collateralized and whatever, and I check those against the amount that we have.
Got it.
So,
The
making
banks
sure that we're covered.
pledge securities and other assets that they have, loans or securities,
Got
to
it.
then help back.
Yeah, obviously, I don't have that kind of money in a bank, so. Sorry if everyone else knew what that was.
No, it's not
Good,
something.
thank you for that.
It's not something that, it really happens on the consumer side, on the municipal side, you see
I was
that.
just thinking, did I have to sign my house over, or what it was? Thanks, Doreen.
Good question.
And especially since there is momentum to fix it moving, it's at your discretion if you want to include it. We can talk more, Doreen, and you can let me know.
Okay.
If
Most likely it'll be cleaned up by the time we file. By
Yeah,
the-
you say we have the agreement? to
Yes, I have the agreement to sign.
Yeah.
Yep.
then we would leave it out then, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
It's taken care of?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
your decision as a board.
Sometimes a board likes to, use the auditors or use the management letter to put things in there in a public document, just to kind of like, I don't wanna say use in a negative way, but just to put something in a public document that we see that can kind of reiterate what the board is thinking as a group. If you're comfortable with the actions moving forward, we're happy to leave that out of the management letter.
I think, if I understand correctly, we'll have this cleaned up by the time we file, so there's no reason to put it in the report.
Sorry.
Is my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. It sounds like we can have it signed today.
Sign today, I can drop it off at the bank and we'll be good.
Perfect, that sounds great.
Be good with that.
We appreciate that. And then again, as I mentioned previously, last year in the management letter was that comment regarding the loan balances. So reconciling the loan software to the general ledger, definitely more improved, from where it was last year. We still just recommend that we didn't see any like formal review by the board. I don't know if that's happening informally, if someone else is checking it, especially since Doreen is really the only one involved in that process. Just bringing kind of the reconciliation between the loan software and the general ledger to this group periodically, just so that you can see what the balances are outstanding and confirm that you're comfortable with those balances. It's kind of like, you're doing it, the same thing kind of in two places, so just making sure that that duplicated work, there aren't any like clerical errors there.
Absolutely.
So the reconciliation part is what you're recommending, because the capitalization report of what the loan balances are, they do get presented every month.
So I think I think what happens is, occasionally, like if an entity is paying extra or making up a payment, the amortization schedules change a little bit on the loan software, and those aren't caught up on the general ledger. And so I don't know where that report is coming from, if that's coming from the loan software that you see on a regular basis.
What the board gets is from the loan software.
Got it. So then it would be that extra step of just seeing the general ledger balances and tying those to that loan software.
Yeah, that would be
Yep.
just printing it out.
And if it's something you feel comfortable doing quarterly or whatever basis, we
Okay.
just recommend that, and being an occasional review by the board. Again, big improvement from the prior year. Last year we did have, a bigger proposed journal entry to true up those balances, and that wasn't the case this year. So we do see that improvement, but it's still just a recommendation that it be done. It's something the board looks at as well.
And do you think quarterly would be a good recommendation? Okay. Okay.
And then our last piece of deliverable is the auditor communication letters that outlines what our responsibility is, which is planning and performing that audit to obtain reasonable assurance over financial statements. Significant accounting policies, again, are included in footnote 1 to the financial statements. No changes from the prior year, nothing to report there. As far as significant estimates go in these financial statements, there are 2 significant estimates. These are pretty routine in municipal financial statements. So there is the net pension liability, or occasionally that's an asset. That's the New York State pension. So if that were to shut down today, what the entity would owe, or in some years it's been what the entity would receive, just based on how the state's investments are performing. That comes directly from the state, so that estimate, we evaluate the inputs and have determined it's reasonable. The state is performing that and giving you the number. The second estimate is your compensated absences liability, so that is vacation time, sick leave accruals. We receive all that information from Doreen. We take a look at the employment contracts, the documentation that states how many days or hours are outstanding, perform a recalculation of that, and have determined that that estimate is reasonable as well. Everyone in our firm, everyone who worked on the audit is independent of the IDA. And then any other matters, again, we thank Doreen for all the help. This is a quick turnaround. We're asking lots and lots of questions. We're pretty in constant communication, so we thank her for all of her help. Again, there were several proposed journal entries, but those were routine in nature, similar to last year. The IDA's financial statements contain some long-term items, so we help and assist in proposing those journal entries for things related to that net pension asset that can compensate the liabilities, the capital assets, some of those long-term items that don't affect the day-to-day operations. We proposed those with Doreen. Again, they're consistent with what we've proposed in prior years. These draft financial statements will be issued in time for the 331 Paris filing requirements. Again, with that unmodified, clean opinion, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no reportable findings. And then quickly on to some of the financial statement highlights. Taking a look at the statement of net position, that's the balance sheet or that snapshot in time. Ending net position or your equity position at year end is about $8.9 million. Again, this includes certain long-term items within that equity position. So there are long-term capital assets included in there. So certain equipment, land, buildings, things that you own are included on the balance sheet of the IDA. Moving on to the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. That is your income statement and shows the operations for the full year. Overall net position did increase this year by about $16,000. Total operating revenues came to about $995,000. The highest of those items are your rentals of real property. And then operating expenses came to about $972,000. The highest within there are the administrative costs of running the IDA. And then moving on to the statement of cash flows. Overall cash flows did decrease this year by about $369,000. I just want to note within there, if you look at the section, cash flows from investing activities, you can see that part of the reason for the decrease, $282,000, was because CDs are purchased. So this cash flows is actually true cash. It doesn't take into consideration the CDs. So I just want to point that out, that it was not, a loss of money. It was just moving cash to CDs of about $282,000. Within your operating cash flows, however, that's again similar to the other entities. It's pretty much a function of the loans that are being issued versus the loans that are being collected. So loans issued this year were about $850,000, so a bigger year for loans going out, the cash going down, versus collections of about $548,000. So that difference also makes up why the cash flows decreased this year. So this is, information that I'm sure you're aware of, but it just puts it into a picture of how the year looked. Any questions on that? Or any questions about?
Could you give just a higher level overview or explanation on the pension liability part and how that fluctuates year to year?
Sure, it's
with the state?
basically, so the state, that's the state pension system, so anyone who's eligible for retirement through the employee retirement system, each year the state values at their year end, so March 31st, what the overall value of that net pension system is, and it's, 95% determined on how the state's investments are, so how they have invested the money that entities have paid into. If it's a good year, that means they're in some cases overfunded, where they would eventually, if they shut down today, have to pay money back. In some years, if the investments aren't performing as well, then the entities, if the state shut down today, would have to owe the state. It's hard because it's not really useful information because the state isn't going to shut down today, so you're not going to owe today or
Not today.
be paid today.
Maybe.
You budget for this, it is paid on an annual basis by you, so it's not something that is gonna affect how you budget or how you pay for it. It's just something that the state required, starting a few years ago, be included in the financial statements. It could fluctuate, and we have seen big fluctuations year to year based on how the investments perform, what the discount rate is. The state gives that information, they're audited independently before they provide that, so.
I was gonna say New York State Retirement sends us that information, which I forward to Drescher and Malecki,
Yes.
so they can make the entries on the financials
Yeah.
and stuff.
Just want to be clear, that's not what we plan to expend this
Mm.
year, that's what the
Yes.
state's deficiency would be prorated to our share of the overall fund, which is like .0001
Definitely.
of
Yes.
the state's.
And they smooth
pension
out
fund,
what you
yeah.
owe over 5 years, so as it goes up and down, as the pension system, performs well or doesn't perform well, they're smoothing what you pay over 5 years, so you don't see those stark fluctuations year to year. But no, the way you operate, the way you pay as you go is consistent with other entities in the system.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, you're
It stands
welcome.
out, it's our really
it
our
stands
own
out. There's
liabilities,
I mean,
only
like the
liabilities.
counties that we work with that has these $1 trillion liabilities, it's like so stark, but it's not. It's an accounting thing that we have to do.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Scary.
It is scary. It's a big number to look at.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Erica.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
So again, not a management letter.
Correct.
And an unmodified opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, thank you, Doreen.
No, thank
for,
you.
it's a quick turnaround. We start in the middle of February, so things are moving quickly, so we appreciate all the help to get to this point.
One thing,
Touch then about finalizing the Paris report.
Okay, yep.
Great. Thank you all.
one thing I like to say, I mean,
Thank
it
you.
sounds all very, very positive for all 3 audits to have as, well, no material weaknesses and have a clean opinion. So that's a kudos to management staff, and thank you to Drescher Malecki
Yeah,
for their
happy to.
efforts.
And if there are any questions throughout the year, please feel free to reach out to us as well.
Well, and on the other hand of that too, if you guys see opportunities for us to improve
Definitely.
or anything that we should know or do better, then
Great.
let us know.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Erica.
you.
Okay, everybody love looking at the financial statements then? Yeah, glossed over.
Hope I never self-audit my business, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Call me.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, so we had the presentation, let's, well, ask for a motion to approve, and then we can have more discussion. You can go start with a motion.
So moved, Serene.
All right, thanks, Serene. And a second?
Second, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion, comments, questions?
It was, it's like, I enjoyed it, it's pretty interesting to see, I mean, not talk about feeling good about your financials, that's a good way to know for sure that money's going the right place.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
strong.
working in a town that carry a large budget like that, I don't even know if we get that in depth with our audit that we do, so it's pretty interesting.
And it is a kudos to Doreen and how she keeps our records. To have a clean bill
Absolutely.
of health
Thank you.
on all 3
I tried.
audits is amazing.
I can tell you that's not that common.
Yeah, I agree with
Because
that.
there are usually always things to point out and talk about at this meeting. Not that there's bad things everywhere, but that there are more things to point out usually.
Discrepancies, yeah.
So good job, you guys.
Very good.
All right, so with that, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's carried. So we're gonna leapfrog back to the top of the agenda, and we'll ask for a motion to enter executive session to discuss company financials.
So moved.
Or financials of a specific company, I should say. Thank you, Janice. In a second?
Steve.
Steve, all right, thank you. legs for a couple minutes. Hiking in altitude thing. Come back. Calves are like double the size right now. I had dinner in Boulder, Colorado last night.
Last night?
Got home at 2 a.m.
That's why you're not making any sense today.
Yeah. Par for the course.
We're good.
Okay. All right, let's ask for a motion to exit executive session and convene open session.
So moved, sorry.
Thank you, Serene. Second? Yep. Steve? All right, thank you. All right. Item 3 on the agenda here is the review and approval of our minutes from our February 21st meeting. They're included in the packet. And one item to note in the back, the resolution that we approved, the full resolution that we approved at the February meeting was not in minutes that were emailed.
Correct.
It is included in the printed green packet here in front of you, so is everybody's, give everybody a second to look through that, but add with the formal resolution added to the minutes. And we'll have an opportunity for comments and questions, but I'd like to start asking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, Steve, thanks. In a second?
Second.
Jesse? All right. Just take your time to flip through it, but, and then if you have any comments or questions, let us, or voice them. Again, the resolution itself was presented at the last meeting in the materials ahead of time. It's just that the minutes version.
Yeah, the vote was there and who made the motion, seconded, were in the minutes that were emailed out. That's just the meat of the resolution that was.
The actual resolution part was not included in the minutes.
Oh, Steve, is that because they're building more houses and fewer towns?
Fewer townhomes. But price went up.
Yeah, I thought some of the townhome lots were converted to single family, so are they, right?
We're talking about Water Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause he went from 18 to 16
Right.
condos, I think.
Right.
And then prices went up, so the incentives changed a little bit, so that's basically, I think, what the resolution.
But it didn't
was
change the number of
approved.
single-family homes that they're building there? I thought, cause I thought some of the townhome lots were changed to single-family houses.
As part of the IDA project, I think it was just the
Yeah,
condos.
Just the condos, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it's carried. As far as changes in the agenda, we did our action item number 1 already. Do we have anything to add to the meeting?
I think so.
Okay, and we'll move on to number 5, the finance report. So in the packet, we have our P&L and our loan capitalization reports, the balance sheet, all of our normal packet. Right, yeah, anything else?
I have check numbers 6489 to 6509 and E163 to E168, totaling $71,499.13. One of the big checks on there is to JR's Heating and Cooling for $18,694.78. That's the other half of the payment for the new unit for Estabrook that finally got, after 4 months, came and got installed. I also have check number 65 for one of the previously approved loans for $67,000. I don't know if we have, due to time, I don't know if anybody's got any questions or you got anything you wanna ask Steve on those?
Yeah. I guess we'll start by asking for a motion to accept the finance report and approve paying those specific checks.
I'll make that motion, Jesse.
Jesse?
I'll second Serene.
And Serene. Are there any questions or comments on any of the presented material, or packet material? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, it's carried. Do you guys want to hit just a couple highlights from the management reports that you have?
I have no update.
Okay.
I'll just add that we met with, some local representatives in the Dundee area, to start a kind of committee or group that's talking about revitalization, do some grant planning down there, to help some of their storefronts and, create some upper floor apartments. Had a couple business owners, director of Seneca Lake Wine Trail, town of Starkey supervisor, and a couple, our, director of Our Town Rocks. So it's a good group that's gonna meet at minimum once a month going forward, and then more frequently as needed once kind of, some plans go forward. But there's some good opportunities for New York Main Street Grant, Restore New York or New York Forward, which are all state grant opportunities to help communities and downtown development. So put some more focus down there. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come from that. The Wing Walk was held at the beginning of this month. Parker's Grill was the winner. I still think the coolest thing about the whole event is 500 tickets were sold, 492 people showed up that day to actually partake, and then at the end, everyone cast their vote. 444 people, 444 or 442 voted, and it was about 90% vote rate actually. So people are invested in thinking, providing their input on who the best wing in Penny is.
90% of people vote for best chicken wings, about 30 for president.
Priorities. Everybody has priorities.
Yeah, and this year we did a little award ceremony at the Elks following the event. So between 4 and 5, we calculated everything up. It was a great turnout at the Elks. People showed up there, full bar, people out in their dining room, and made the announcement that Parker's won. And then the committee that helps put on the event walked the trophy down to Parker's, and at 5:15 walked into their restaurant with the trophy. They had a full dinner crowd, and the place just erupted. So it was really cool.
Oh, that's great.
Doing it that way, they got their recognition. So.
Yeah, nice.
Fun day again.
Who funds that?
So it's the Downtown Business Council that really puts it on. It's their biggest generator of revenue for the year, so they retain most of the proceeds, or all the proceeds minus expenditures, and then it allows them to put on other events throughout the year, like the Fall Festival, Trunk or Treat, helps with the First Friday events.
Thanks,
Missed
man.
out on tickets again. Wasn't fast enough.
23 minutes.
Yeah.
It's crazy how quick these events are going.
Steve? do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just, I guess the additions will be, I guess, based on some earlier discussions. One of the things I'm pretty excited about is Wine and Beer Supplies announcement that their opening of their Penn Yan, their East County location. They are a distributor, supplier for the craft beverage industry, so it's nice to see some of the supplier, supply lines come in that might help with at least choice, and maybe you would think therefore maybe some pricing for local craft beverage industries, which is a neat thing to see when we can start to get supply chains coming in. The fight is not over with Governor Hochul on her local school budget formula recalculations. She doubled down as of last night, I think she was quoted as saying if there's a lawsuit over this, which is being threatened, then there's a lawsuit. She thinks it needs to do, but now again, remember she's added money. She's added almost $5 billion, I think, to the school budgets overall since she's been governor. But in this current redo of her formula, 337 school districts, which is about half the school districts, see a cut in funding, and it's totaling $167 million in cuts for those 337 districts, and some much heavier than that $500,000 average. So it's, you know, it's not done yet. That discussion will continue to go forward. And then I guess the last two things is we already hit on the job the staff's done for the audits and such. The Paris reports is no small effort either. We're collecting roughly 30 reports from companies that have outstanding pilots with us. They have to supply to us what their pilot payments were, what their current job totals are. We calculate the net benefits. All that has to go into the Paris, which is an acronym for public authority, responsibility, something. That has to all go in roughly 45 loans. So a lot of information, all that's coming in, all due by the end of March. So it's a lot to do there. And last week, I think, was Doreen's 34th anniversary of being here. Yesterday, what? It was yesterday.
Wow, Doreen,
So,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a tremendous
That's
amount of
amazing.
service to her community.
Now? Yeah, should we now?
Now you might be shocked.
You're only one away from 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're at it, go for 40.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Great. Yeah, kudos, Doreen.
Yeah,
Great.
quite an accomplishment.
Good comments, Steve and Mike, thank you.
I just wanna say I'm so excited about Black Squirrel Farms. We have a giant black walnut tree on our property.
I'm cleaning up my street because they covered in the fall. So I'll
They're
be
like
dropping them all
tennis
up there.
balls that are hard as a, like a baseball,
Mhm.
And
and
they
they
make
fall.
a mess
I
when you
mean,
drive over.
Yeah, yeah.
You can make some alcohol called no chino out of those.
No chino.
It's pretty expensive. So
That's
it's
it.
like
Distillery.
walnuts
Alright.
hanging around.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to tap that after the meeting ends.
So we're gonna move on to our action items. We've already done number 1, so we have number 2 here, which is loan approval or a modified loan approval for Upstate Brewing Company.
Yep.
And wanna give us a brief overview of that, Mike?
Yep, so the loan review committee has recommended a modified loan amount to Upstate Brewing Company, increasing the loan to $100,000. It was previously $75,000. All other terms remain the same. It's a 5-year term. Interest rate at 1% if he uses automatic payments. And collateral on the loan will be a UCC filing against Upstate Brewing Company LLC and personal guarantees from Mark and Angela Newman. He's in a new location that has increased his total project cost to build out the tasting space to his needs. So the total project cost is $202,000 and projected jobs to be created is 3 full-time equivalents over the next 3 years.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'd ask for a motion to approve the loan modification request.
I'll make that motion. Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse. And a second?
Second, Janice.
Janice? Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it's carried. Then our next and last action item today is a lease renewal for Aquasource Inc.
In the Doreen's management or status report, they're just looking for a 3-month extension. They're currently up on our 2nd floor here, Suite 201. It's a 375 square foot office that rent is $475 a month. So they're just looking for a 3-month extension.
Do you think they plan to move on at some point, or?
I think so. I think my guess is they need more space, but.
Okay.
At that rental rate, I don't know why. It's a pretty good rate. Do we need to make a motion on that?
Yeah, if
I'll
somebody
make
would.
that motion.
Thank you, Jesse. And a second?
Serene.
Serene, thank you. Any further discussion or any questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Did you have a comment, Jim? No?
I did not.
Okay, all right. Our next scheduled meeting is the 3rd Wednesday in April. It's the 17th. It'll be after our eclipse. So you guys take note of that.
I got my glasses yesterday.
I won't be here, I'll be in New Orleans.
Okay. You have room for one more to go? That sounds fun.
Fun,
All right, then, well.
It's one thing to see you come back from hiking in Boulder, I'd like to see you come back for a board meeting after being in,
With that, let's, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you,
Janice.
Janice. And a second.
Second, Jesse.
Jesse, all right, thank you, everybody.